Hello, and welcome to a new season of the Storied Arcs podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike.
And I'm your co-host, Alex.
And today we are going to do our spoiler-free introduction to Joyride, which is, we're going to talk all about it. Obviously, this episode is going to be spoiler-free. We're not going to get into the plot. That's next week. This is just who's the creative team, publisher, Image Comics. You know, we know them.
Boom. It's from Boom, actually.
Oh, it's Boom, right.
Yeah. Boom.
Well, we know them as well.
We do know them. We've done playbooks from them as well. One of my favorite kind of publishers now. But yeah, this is a book, it's from, came out in 2016, April 2016 to April 2017. It's 12 issues. Interestingly enough, it was one of those books that I think the way that Boom did it, if you find issue 1, which is available, this book isn't, if you have a hard time finding this book, it's mainly out of like print run scarcity, not because it's has any real value or anything like that. But if you find issue 1, it's got this like bright yellow cover. It very clearly and very big says number 1 of 4, because that's what I think what the plan was when it first came out. Then I think sales up were pretty good, because I want to say, did it go to multiple printings? It may have gone to a couple printings at Boom, and then like when issue 2 came out, it didn't say 2 of 4, and at some point they took that off. I think they took it off. I think it's only on the first issue, but that was the original plan. It was, we'll give you 4 issues here, and the creative team at that time were kind of relative unknowns to the larger kind of mainstream comic space. So I guess it made sense, but it clearly must have caught on enough that they let it run, and it eventually got 12 issues, collected into 3 volumes, and we're going to be discussing them 1 volume at a time. Each volume is just 4 issues, so maybe a little lighter. It's a lighter tone book than kind of what we've talked about recently, especially like last season with something as kind of dense as Top 10. This is a bit more of a lark. It has just a lighter edge to it, which I think is good. Nothing wrong with that kind of book, kind of being this pure kind of escapism. But I think there's a vibe to this book that I really like, and what I connected to when I first read it, which was a little bit after it first came out. Also,
in terms of books we've already covered. So, I mean, because
okay,
like I think we've done a lot of even when we do a book that is, I don't like using these words, but like light and frivolous.
Yes,
they're not just light and frivolous.
No,
so I would say
no.
This is somewhere between Crowded and Paper Girls.
What I would say is this book, the most direct comp for this book in a lot more ways than one, is Outpost Zero.
Oh yeah. My gosh, I forgot we did that.
So Joyride is the kind of, so one thing we talked about with Outpost Zero was when that book eventually was kind of republished as a complete collection, they put it out in that smaller trade size, right? The one that's
for younger audiences.
Yeah, generally targeted towards the younger audience. Joyride, when we get to the end of this book, I think you will understand that. So just recently, as we're recording this right now, in April 2025, a few weeks back, a complete collection of Joyride was just released. So there had been the 3 trades that had come out, the last one coming out back in February 2018, so almost a year after the final issue came out. So it's been a significant amount of time before this complete collection comes out, and it's a regular size trade. But what I'm saying is, when we get to the end, Mike, and you've read the whole thing, we've talked about it, you could understand if that complete collection had come out in that smaller size, had come out in that digest size, because it's a book that feels like it's made for that, where you could hand it to a quote-unquote younger reader.
I had never heard of this book
until
4 weeks ago when you suggested it, or however long ago,
and it came back in my radar because I saw the release of this complete collection. I was like, right, I remember that book.
But I was in shops when this came out, and I think I must have just looked at it the way I did with Outpost Zero and be like, that's kind of a teen book,
which exactly it is. Yeah.
But my mistake was that, yes, it is a teen book, but that doesn't mean it's not also for me.
That's true.
Like good teen books are for me. I pre-ordered the new Hunger Games book, and I read that in a day after it came out. So it's
and I would say too, though, as something we've talked about before, I mean, in this time period, we're talking about 2016, 2017, like you had just gotten in to comics at that point, right? You were a few years in, but you were still.
It was still very much fire hose, yeah.
Yeah, but it was also very much. It was very much. I mean, essentially DC stuff. Like it was all superhero. You weren't reading a lot of creator-owned, a lot of indie stuff as much.
2016, 2017, I was pretty deep into Lemire.
Yeah.
Following him anywhere he went. So all his image stuff.
Yeah.
And then that started to like bleed over. But no, I wouldn't just pick up a random
boom book that just that's not where you were at the time.
I guess that is when that's probably about the time frame that Grass Kings was coming out, and
a
that
little
was
bit later,
my first boom book.
Yeah,
2017.
I think it's in that zone there, definitely.
So that was I remember that being my first boom book, and I was like, I love Matt Kent. I don't care. I don't know what boom is, and I don't care.
Yeah.
I like Matt Kent.
Yeah. And I think we get there. This is an interesting book now because the main creative team, which I'll go into right here, this is an early work for them, for the two co-writers and the main artist, who have now gone on to much larger things now. So this is a book that you can look back on and see like, oh, this is kind of where they started in terms of kind of their larger entry. They had all done, they'd done some smaller stuff together, some even lower profile stuff. This was kind of their first kind of foothold entry, and now these are names you see all over. So I'll go into it right now. The writers are, it's a co-writing team of Jackson Lanzing and Collin Kelly. They call themselves the Hive Mind. Yeah, whenever you almost never see them booked at shows separately. Like they're always like they're listed separately because alphabetically, they're not quite next to each other, but they're always next to each other. Their signings are together. The first time I saw them at a show, I walked up and only one of them was there. And I was like, wait a minute, you guys are allowed to be apart? And it was kind of like, yeah, well, whoever was missing, I think maybe Jackson was missing because he was coming from like getting food or something like that. I was like, maybe back in like 20 minutes, whatever. So I, circle back around, but they're always like, they only work on things together. And if you look at their comic CV, I want to say maybe there's a dozen issues from back in the day, that something that Jackson Lansing has written by himself. Outside of that, everything they've done, especially everything they've done in the past like 10, 15 years, about 10 years, I guess, they've been together. It's always Lansing and Kelly working together. That is just kind of how they operate. The main artist, the interior artist, is Marcus Toe, Canadian artist who is, after this book, became one of my favorite artists. I didn't know who he was before going in. I'll talk about it a little bit later, but he's the interior artist. The colorist is, I worked on this, Irma Kniivila, I think, Kniivila, Kniivila. That is the colorist here, and the letterer is Jim Campbell, who's a name we've said before because he does pretty much, not like solely all Boom books, but he does a lot of books for Boom. So almost the vast majority of books we've talked about from Boom, he's done. So yeah, that's our main team. I'll go back to the hive mind again real quick here of Lansing and Kelly and kind of run down some of the stuff that they've done. And again, most of the stuff is all stuff that's happened in the past, effectively the last 10 years. Their first kind of major book was a book at Boom with Marcus Toe, and I'm assuming this is where the three of these guys met. Was this project at Boom called Hacktivist, which was an idea, as I understand it. I don't know the exact rights, but I believe this idea and the IP, it came from the actress Alyssa Milano. And I think it's her IP, her story, her idea that they then went to Lansing and Kelly on to write, and Marcus Toe as art. And the reason I say that is because Joyride is billed as the first creator-owned work from Kelly, Lansing, and Toe.
Okay.
Meaning that so I think Hacktivist as an idea, as an IP, because at some point I think it was in development as a series. This would have been many, many years ago. So I think as an IP, she owns it. It's her idea. They were just brought on to actually write the scripts and things like that and flesh it out. But that's a pretty cool book. This is a wild premise here, so you got to bear with me for a second. This came out in 20. There are two volumes: Volume 1 in 2014, Volume 2 in 2015. It's about the co-founders of what became the world's like biggest and most important social media app, the one that everyone used. Secretly, they were part of a white hat hacker group that actually fought to take down evil regimes around the world, using their status as the billionaire people who run social media. So like crazy sci-fi, crazy out there that the person who runs it's unimaginable.
It actually
that was 10 years ago. That's where we were 10 years ago with social media. But it's a pretty cool book. It's a fun book. I read it after I read Joyride because I was like, oh, you know who I like? I like Marcus Toe. I read everything he's done. Oh, he did another book with Kelly and Lanzing. I'm going to read this here. So that's a pretty cool book to go back and read and see. And like I said, I assume at this point, whatever show adaptation that Alyssa Milano was working on is long dead. But you never know. You never know. It's a cool idea, and it would if it came out today, it'd be a radical idea. You know, it was interesting 10 years ago. Now it's
well, I mean, I actually wonder if people could even tolerate the imagination of it.
That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying. It's like, it's so far out there now. Yeah.
I think it would be like, some people would interpret it as like, oh, you're trying to show sympathy to it, and you're trying to reform these characters. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it'd be a tougher sell now, but it is a pretty cool read. It's a pretty fun read. It's to like put yourself back in where we were on our relationship to social media 10 years ago. Just that, Yeah, but before it had really.
That was still
had
like
not
social
changed
media
an election
1.0.
yet.
It was still social media 1.0. It was kind of in the heyday. It starts gaining traction in 2009, 10, 11, and then in that early, it's kind of pre 2016. It was in its heyday, and that's when this.
I just told someone the other day that I thought like Facebook's heyday was 2012. And
probably,
and
so was Twitter's. Twitter's was in that same spot there, 12, 13, 14 in that zone. That's kind of where it was. And that's where this book Hacktivist came out from. And I said, it's a tougher read now, but I think it's worth going back to that. And that's like, that is the pair's first.
I have the guts to read it. If you have the guts to do it on this podcast,
we could. We could tack it on the back of this. It's the same creative team, essentially. So we'll see. We can discuss that. The big thing that Lanzing and Kelly are doing right now is, since 2019, they have kind of been the main guys at IDW running Star Trek. They came on and did what was called year 5 or season 5 of Star Trek, and what that was IDW's. That was their continuity from the original series, like the 5-year mission of the original Enterprise crew. They came on in, I think it was 2019 when they started, and did that season 5, what that 5th year of that original voyage was. And since then they've gone on to do kind of the main Star Trek series, where I think they started bringing in the characters and crews from like all the various. It was kind of like the Avengers Endgame of Star Trek,
Sure.
And I am told this is one of those properties, much like Power Rangers, where they did the same thing, where they brought in all the disparate titles into one. I am told from the people who love Star Trek that these books are pretty damn good, and so from the main title, the main series, and a bunch of miniseries as well. Lanzing and Kelly have been doing that. That's kind of been one of their main gigs the last couple of years. They also have some Marvel stuff going on now, but before that and before IDW, they kind of got their start at DC, 2016, 2017 in that zone. They still do some more recent stuff, but that was kind of where they started on the for hire work. Did a lot of spot issues, fill-in runs, contributed to anthologies, short stories, which is a common thing amongst this whole creative team group as they were kind of making their way into the industry a little more. You start by getting these, short stories in anthologies and things like that. So they were doing that at DC during the New 52 era, at the end of the New 52 era, which is, right at the end of like 2015, 2016. They came on at the end and did some issues of Grayson, did some issues of Batman, Robin, Eternal. During the Rebirth era, they came in at the end of the Green Arrow run, at the end of the Nightwing run. They did a series called Gotham City Garage, which is based off the statue line, very similar to the DC Bombshells line, where they made these cool looking statues and then they created comics out of them. I think that started digital first and then eventually got into print. More recently at DC, they just did a series. It was their take on The Outsiders, which was basically like a revamp of Planetary. Never read Planetary. DC Wildstorm book. Very, very cool, very out there, weird book. It's got some crazy weird meta storytelling stuff in it, but they got to play in that universe a little bit, which is pretty cool. They did a couple of Batman Beyond books recently, and did you read the One Bad Day series in Batman where they put those hardcovers out for all?
I skimmed it.
Yeah,
I picked up the ones that were like I thought it was interesting, or it's Tom King and Mitch. It's like I'll read that.
They put a bunch of teams together and did some stuff with that. Lanzing and Kelly wrote the Clayface one, so that relatively recent, still doing some DC work. But a lot of since Outsiders, which finished up sometime last year, I think in 2024, they've mainly been working over in the Marvel set in terms of their for hire stuff. They still have Star Trek stuff going on, but starting in like 2021, 2022, somewhere in there, they started getting and working in the Captain America room. They wrote some various numbers of Captain America titles, and at some point, a handful of years ago, they split the Captain America books, and the Steve Rogers book was called Sentinel of Liberty, and the Sam Wilson book was Symbol of Truth. And Lanzing and Kelly were on the Sentinel of Liberty book, the Steve Rogers book. And then there was a crossover that was like Captain America Cold War. It crossed over with him and Steve and Sam and Bucky and all that. They worked their way through all that stuff there. That was a handful of years ago. They did all that. And I don't think they're on Captain America now currently, but that was kind of they were the previous run of Captain America going into where the book is now. They had a run on Guardians of the Galaxy, a maxi-ish series run, I think probably 12 issues, something like that.
Is that the one with the cowboy hat on the cover?
It may have been. I've never read Guardians, but that it would have been sometime in the past like 3 or 4 years. They had a full run.
Okay. I gotta find that one because I'm like, there was a run I read just because like it was like free or something in the Marvel app for
might have been
something,
sure.
And I was like on an airplane, and it was like, oh, I downloaded this. I don't remember downloading it. Yeah. I guess I'll read it. And I was like, that's not bad.
It would have been a team that's obviously more in line character wise with what we end up seeing in the MCU the past handful of years, coming out of the James Gunn books, which is very similar to the next book that these guys have been tied to at Marvel, which is Thunderbolts. They've written the last 2 incarnations of the Thunderbolts, including one that's ongoing right now, as you're recording. That's part of the One World Under Doom kind of overall event. It's a team that's led by Bucky Barnes, aka former Winter Soldier, former Captain America, now called the Revolution, which is a terrible name. Sorry, guys at Marvel. Sorry, Bucky. But the last couple, that's a team they bring back for specific ideas and just like, here's 5 issues, we're gonna tell a new Thunderbolt story, that kind of thing. The most recent ones they've taken care of. They've also been working out of the X Office. They just finished up a series from the Ashes era, which is the X-Men era out of the Krakoan era that just wrapped up recently. They did NYX, which is about kind of teenage, late high school, early college age, late teens, early 20s teens in New York. It's kind of a ragtag team. That was pretty fun, pretty good book. Good mix of characters, I thought. Kind of the important thing out of that is one of the characters that they used was Kamala Khan, who has been recently retconned into being both an X-Man, a mutant, and an Inhuman. Don't worry about it. Just accept that that's what she is. Because the next kind of thing they have upcoming, that it's not out yet, but it's coming out later in 2025. I think it's in June or July. Maybe it starts later this month. It's a giant-sized brackets insert famous X event here, where they're sending Kamala Khan kind of back through time, and she's going to be experiencing these big events like giant-sized X-Men #1 from 1975. Giant-sized Dark Phoenix saga, Age of Apocalypse, and then House of M. So she's going to be entangled and thrown back through time and kind of experience or re-experience these major events to kind of, I think it's meant to like grappling with the idea of her being a mutant and what that means and all that. But that's kind of the next event they have coming out at Marvel, which is pretty cool. I'm going to be reading that because I like all things Kamala and I read all the X-Men books anyway. So that's what they got on top of the Star Trek stuff they got going on, which again, not a Trekker. So, but again, told they're really great. So if you are, congrats. These guys are pretty good at that stuff. And I know it's stuff they're really excited about, because when I saw them, so when I saw these guys for the first time at a show a couple years ago, I had some, I think I had Outsiders #1. I may have had, I don't think NYX was out at that point, but I had 2 issues of Joyride that I'd gotten signed by Marcus Toe a couple years earlier, and I brought those to them, and they lit up like, oh, this is great. They're kind of the first stuff there. And the first they said was, hey, by the way, in a few months, we're working with Marcus again because we're bringing him on for a run of Star Trek. Which I was like, okay, I checked those out. I didn't know what was going on because I don't read Star Trek, but I checked those issues out because it was the same team from Joyride, which I thought was pretty cool. So we can transition into the work that Marcus Toe does, and it's clear that these guys are all pals. You know, they want to keep working together. They want to do stuff. Obviously, again, they brought Marcus on to do some Star Trek work at IDW, which is kind of the only work at IDW that he's done. Over at Boom, his stuff is pretty much the stuff he's done with Lanzing and Kelly. As I mentioned, it's Joyride and it's the 2 volumes of Hacktivists. And I think he's done some Power Rangers, because I think if you work at Boom, you have to do Power Rangers at some point.
Sure.
And also, like, his art style like fits Power Rangers
fits,
too.
Yeah.
Like there's an aesthetic look to it that you're like, this fits with the Super Science stuff. But he got his start. I think his first stuff in comics, he was over at Aspen Comics, which is a comic company. No offense to them, we're never going to talk about. But Aspen was founded by Michael Turner, who was a famous artist. He started this company back in, I think, 2003, and then passed away from cancer in 2008. But he has a legacy of he draws pinups. He's kind of known for that, coming out of the late 90s, early aughts kind of style. And I think Marcus Toe was brought on. He drew some of their flagship titles like Fathom and Soulfire. But if you know Michael Turner's artwork, if you were around comics at the time, if you see it, you're like, oh yeah, that's a Michael Turner like pinup. That's a Michael Turner drawn character. You can just see it. He's kind of like a J. Scott Campbell in that way. But we'll probably never talk about an Aspen Comics book, but that is where Marcus kind of got his start. From there, I think he started moving into some DC work. Pre-New 52, he was the regular artist on a Red Robin series, that was Tim Drake after he got like decanonized as a Robin.
And crazy went right into the Robin Wars. Was that the one?
No. This is pre
after.
Okay. Robin War was post New 52, during New 52.
Oh, right. Okay.
So this was a Tim Drake series where he was taken out of continuity as a Robin, and he just started as Red Robin, which really didn't make any sense. But Marcus Toe was the artist on that. I think it went 16, 20 some odd issues, maybe something like that. But he was, a regular gig at DC, pretty cool. During the New 52, he had a run on Huntress title, a run on some issues on Batwing, some issues on Flash. Then he continued kind of going through. He's always doing covers and variants. Again, also contributing to anthologies and shorts. He's been doing that as well. More recently, as kind of his DC work, his for hire work has been some of the anthologies and collections that they do. But during the Rebirth era, this is where I first encountered Marcus Toe's work, and I didn't know who he was. He did the second arc of Nightwing.
Tim Seeley's, Nightwing.
Yeah, this is when Tim Seeley was writing the book.
Which I was pulling that book at the time.
Yeah.
But didn't pay attention to who the artist was, but I was enjoying that, even though I felt like, the Nightwing arc itself was a little aimless. Like it was very hit or miss issue to issue.
So what it was
I liked Tim Seeley's writing. Yeah. And the art was incredible. Yeah. So the book felt nicer than it actually was.
Yeah. Well, I said,
and he also did a run on the New 52 Flash, which of course I
mentioned. Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned. Yeah, he did a run on Flash. I think kind of somewhere in the middle. A lot of spot issues or fill-ins or mini arcs kind of thing.
Yes, I think it was.
He was never a regular artist.
Correct.
He was never a regular artist. After working on Red Robin, but that Nightwing arc is how I ended up learning who he was, because I remember reading those, and you just clock, oh, it's a new artist. I'm not paying attention to the name at that point. I didn't know who it was. And then a little bit after that, I think I saw a sale on Comixology for like trades, maybe for Boom or something like that. And I saw Joyride, the first volume, because I think at that point the first volume was out and it might have been well into the second arc there. But I ended up buying it just because it was on sale. And I started reading it. I thought, God, this art is great. It looks familiar. Do I know this artist? and I read through it, and then I go back and oh wait, this was the guy who did those issues of Nightwing that I liked. Wait, who is this guy? Marcus. And so that's how I connected it. And then after I read that first volume, went out to a shop, was able to find all the single issues at that point of Joyride, and then finished up. I want to say it was close to the end. It might have been at like issue 8 or 9 at that point, and it only went to 12. So I was able to find them all, but I wanted to have them because I was able. That's how I put 2 and 2 together of who this artist was. And then Marcus To became a guy that I'm like, I love his character design. I love the way he does faces and just character in general. I love it so much. So he's someone that I want to follow. And so when I saw his stuff after that over at Marvel drawing, he did a run on New Warriors like 10 some odd years ago, which is like a real random set of New Warriors. But he started doing stuff in the X office, which made me very happy because I love the X-Men. He did some work on X-Men Blue, which was the X-Men era right before 2019, before the big Krakoan reboot. And then during the Krakoan age, he was the main character on Excalibur. So like regular artist, 20 some odd issues, love to see it. He just finished up, at least I think he finished up. I'm not certain if it's still going or not, but he's the artist on X-Force, which is the current X-Force volume in the From the Ashes era that's ongoing right now. So like for the past, since like 2019, I've basically had Marcus To art monthly and on drawing drawing my favorite characters. So it's been so cool to see. He also did some work on Shang-Chi, which was very cool in that as they were gearing up towards the release of Shang-Chi in the MCU, they obviously brought him back and they tied some of the movie mythology into the character. But those books were written by Jean Lewin Yang, and the artists on those books were all like of East Asian descent. Like it was Marcus To did a run on this. I think DK Ruin did some on the first issue. So like they were bringing in people of Chinese or East Asian heritage to draw that book and work on that. So that was pretty cool to see, that allowing those stories to be told by people who have experience with them, which is pretty cool to see. Yeah. It's something that wouldn't have happened, that barely would have happened 10 years ago, definitely wouldn't have happened 20 years ago, but something we can do now to bring some more visibility and all that. And those books, again, are gorgeous because his art is so great. So
yeah. It turns out he's the one I'm most familiar with. Also, it was that run of Guardians that I read.
Okay, great.
That was Lanzing and Kelly. So, and again, I like the writing was better than it had to be for that type of book where, they're like, we got to have a Guardians title because there's a Guardians movie coming out or it's in the consciousness now. So we got to have something out there. Yeah. I would never forget in terms of Marcus To, he did just have a book come out, a creator-owned book over at Distillery, which is the new independent creator-owned publisher. With Chip Zdarsky and David Brothers, called Time Waits. It's 3, Distillery has these large oversized like magazine style releases, like perfect bound oversized issues. They're gorgeous because you get so much beautiful art on the page. So if you get a chance to pick it up, it's a good book. It's called Time Waits. It's about time travel and like time cops and things like that. But it's Chip Zdarsky, David Brothers are co-writers with Marcus To on the art. It's a very cool book if you can check it out. I think there's the 3 issues are out. I think there's we just saw it. There's a hardcover collection of all that. We did see that's been released recently. So you can get all 3 issues out there and check it out. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Have you read anything else by Marcus To other than like the Flash issues and the Nightwing stuff you've come across?
Flash issues, Nightwing stuff. Not
the X-Men stuff.
Spot issues, but like not one where he's been the series artist.
Yeah.
And I think I picked up for the first issue of Time Waits, but it's in a big Distillery stack because I don't have bags or boards for them, so I get anxious about them. They don't
magazine
need them.
Style. Well, you got to get the magazine boards there. But for you, I would recommend Time Waits, Mike. I think you'd enjoy that one. And from a retrospective, like looking back on the world, I do think Hacktivist, I think there's some interesting ideas there because you got to put your mind back 10 years ago and be like, wow, we really thought this way about social media back then.
Well, maybe we do
are different.
I'll just kick this out there because we're always throwing out theme month ideas, but we could do a social media theme month where you do thumbs and they're all kind of a time ball of 10 years ago. Well, it's like, we could do
thumbs and Hacktivists, and we could do Unfollow, which is a book from Vertigo.
Yes.
We could do. So let's let's jot that down somewhere on a notepad or something. That's not a bad idea. There's some consistent themes there. That could be fun. Anyway, back to Joyride here. Our colorist, oh God, I just said it in my head too. And Kniivila. I'm going with Kniivila.
I'm only
Irma
laughing because
Kniivila.
you're the one who's pot committed to saying it.
I know,
like,
but
you
like,
started the sentence, so I'm like, I'm not going to help him out.
I know, but like, I feel bad.
Not that I could help you out, but
I'm looking at it again. It's Kniivila. So the double I, I'm thinking Ia, like I'm thinking like Hawaii. So the K's got to be silent, right? So Kniivila. So Irma Kniivila is the colorist. She's done only a handful of books at Boom. Interesting enough, I've read all of them. One is Joyride, the book we're talking about now. She colored the Jane adaptation. We mentioned that Ramon Perez did when we talked about Deep Cuts, that Jane Eyre adaptation, modern set. She's done 2 books. Interestingly, they're both written by Greg Pak, Ronan Island and Lawful, but they're not drawn by the same artist. So it just seems strange, like the colorists work with the same writer both times at Boom. But Ronan Island was drawn by Yanis Milino and Lawful, which is a more recent book that was just done very recently. It was drawn by Diego Galindo. So the Ronan Island, I know it's Giannis because I follow the NBA and I know Giannis Antetokounmpo. So otherwise I wouldn't know how to pronounce Giannis. Is a Greek name. But so those are her books at Boom. Not a lot of books at Marvel. I don't think like nothing at DC for the colorist here for Kniivila. Spot work, short runs, random issues at Marvel. Not a whole lot of stuff there. She does have a book at Image that she co-wrote. So it's this book called Everyday Hero Machine Boy, which is billed as like Astro Boy meets Iron Giant, which are like kind of the same thing, I guess, anyway. But so she co-wrote that book with the author, Tri Vyung. Vyung is the co-writer and the artist, and Kniivila is the co-writer and colorist. So they both co-wrote. One of them drew, one of them colored, and got that book out. I believe that's an OGN that came out from Image Skybound, I think, or Skybound Comic, maybe, I think, which is their all ages line over at Skybound, because a lot of Skybound stuff tends to be, quote unquote adult stuff, I guess. The last thing I found for Irma Kniivila is she's the artist, not just colorist, actually the artist on a children's book called Fluffle Bunnies by writer Anna Humphrey. I've seen it. It is marketed. It says children's book ages 6 to 9. It's about 3 orphan bunnies who become the crime lords that run their little park. But for children, I
would not have actually guessed that it was for kids that young when I looked at it.
Well, yeah. So I'm unfamiliar with it, but it is a book where she's not just the color. She does her own art as well, not just color the people's. But in terms of mainstream comic work, she's mainly a colorist. But Fluffle Bunnies, I believe there are 2 books that are out. You can go read that have come out in the last couple of years. It feels like one of those series that like could run to infinity. You could put a book out every year, and all of a sudden there's like 15 volumes of that book. You just put the characters in a different situation, that kind of thing. It feels like it has that kind of vibe to it. So, last person on our creator list is Jim Campbell as the letterer, who have mentioned his name a couple times before, specifically at Boom. He's letterer on Grass Kings and does a lot of Matt Kint's work in general, especially at Boom. He was also the letterer for Eugenic, when we talked about the Apocalyptic Trilogy from James Tynion IV and Eric Donovan. Not the letterer on Memetic or Cognetic, but the letterer for Eugenic, which maybe was a scheduling thing, because if you remember when we talked about those books, Memetic and Cognetic came out kind of back to back, and then there was a bit of a gap for the last one, Eugenic, as James Tynion IV kind of started to blow up as a comic writer over at DC. So maybe it was a scheduling thing. They couldn't get the original letter for that. But Jim Campbell does a great work there. If you look at his credits, the vast majority of them at Boom, and then there's a big gap. And then the next second most is at Zenescope, which does all like the weird, like adult themed Grimm fairy tale books. Again, Zenescope, probably, sorry, not going to cover anything from you there. And then there's another big jet gap in his credits to like Marvel and anything else. So he's mainly the guy at Boom. I don't want to say their in-house guy. He may be their in-house guy. I don't know. But he does a lot of their books. So if you read a lot of Boom from all manner of creators, you're probably going to see Jim Campbell's name out there. He does great work.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Should we get into the book itself? We already kind of teased our comps.
We did a little bit there, but yeah, if so again, we mentioned that this book just came out recently in a complete collection, which I'm guessing is the way most people can find it. Again, if you check your shop, the back issues of your shop, or a used bin or something like that, you can probably piece together these books pretty easily. And
I think it's cheaper to buy the complete. It's like $20 list price for 12 issues.
It might be. Again, if you have a hard time finding them, it's going to be scarcity due to print run, and how many of your shops ordered a new Boom book from 2016, 2017 from creators that they didn't know at the time. Now Lanzing and Kelly and Toe put a book out, then you can be like writers of Captain America and artists of all this. There's a lot more oomph you can put behind them. They didn't quite have that when this book first came out. So there are a number of different synopses that you can get from Boom. Like if you look at the first issue or the first trade, it's a little different than what you can get on the complete collection. But since that complete collection did just come out, and that's the way that's probably the most easiest to find, go to a shop, bookstore, order it, whatever. Why don't we go and read that one? Well, plus I think that one's a little bit better in terms of what the feel is for this book. You have that up, Mike?
I do.
Yeah.
Steal a spaceship and leave Earth behind. A simple plan made much more complicated by the fascist world government alliance that has put the planet on lockdown underneath an artificial sky. Still, that won't stop Uma Acolyte, her best friend Dude. That's how we're saying that, right?
I think it's Dude.
Dude, okay.
Dude, yeah.
I have notes on that when we get into the book.
Yeah, I say Dude.
I did not know it was a name at first. I thought she was just saying Dude.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And I thought it was annoying, and then it was like his actual name.
Yeah.
Anyway. So that won't stop Uma Acolyte and her best friend Duid and their would-be captor Katrin from embarking on a joyride unlike any other. Joyride is a gleeful mix of the thrill of exploration, the importance of friendship, and the fight against authoritarianism, with a cast of wild and gripping characters, human and alien alike, from writers Jackson Lansing, Collin Kelly, artist Marcus Toe.
Yeah. So what's interesting is the original pitch in like issue 1, before they get into the synopsis, they start giving the comps, like the elevator pitch of what this book is, and which isn't in that complete collection synopsis. But I stole the one line from that issue 1 solicitation where they talk about this book as a space epic with a punk rock attitude, perfect for fans of Young Avengers and Runaways. Which for me, had I seen that, I'd be like, oh, those are like 2 of my favorite Marvel teams and properties. Like I'm a big fan of team books when they're done really well. I like Young Avengers. I love the Runaways, and this does have that vibe. It has that feel. I don't know if it's as good as that. I wouldn't put it up there. I really wouldn't compare them in that way. But that idea of young people trying to break out of what they think is a rut, right? They think they're, disaffected youths, whether or not they're actually have reason to be disaffected or not. But yearning for adventure, yearning to break free, yearning to leave, and leaping before they know what's out there and having to make it up as they go, and, learning life lessons along the way. Right, learning
and
about
also,
exploration, and so you can pack other metaphor and life lesson to the idea of getting those characters out into the world. Yeah,
I was just gonna say the exploration is always a double entendre with a coming of age book, right? Of course, it's like they're going somewhere, but they're really learning what's driving
about
them
themselves.
out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's,
they think they're
it's so from the first issue, it is so clear that our
100%.
Our chief protagonist is there's something inside me that is just driving me to transgress every rule, push every boundary, just break out. And it's one of those things. It's it's cliche, but it's cliche because it works. He's going to have to go all the way to the edge of the universe to find out what was there all along?
In my little synopsis, I have cliche. There are a lot of generic tropes here that you would expect to see in this type of story. You mentioned, Uma's are like a brass ringleader, right? She's the one that's so self-confident that we're going to do this and it doesn't matter. We're going to figure out as we go because it's all about getting out there. But you realize there's something else she's looking for. Do it is the same way, kind of the best friend who's there with her, not reluctantly, but he's there, but he doesn't know he's on his own path of discovery, right? He's out there because this is what we do. I'm some of my friend. She wants to do this thing, but also there's something missing in him that he finds out. And then you have Katrin, who is like, she's the reluctant one who gets like only there through circumstance, who would never do this under normal circumstances. But as you find out, like deep down inside, there's something there that she would have wanted to do this. She needed this. She finds herself out there. And again, these are all, you can take these character tropes and put them onto anything of like the Goonies, or you know what? Just because it was just recently on cable premiered, if you saw Skeleton Crew on Disney Plus, anything like that where kids go on an adventure in a way you're right, you can look at it from a Paper Girl standpoint.
Kids on bikes. Yeah,
kids on bikes. This is kids on a stolen spaceship. That is what it is. You're going out there, and so you have these familiar tropes, these familiar archetypes, familiar kind of plot points in terms of you can imagine what kind of planets are these kids going to go to? Like, where can they get in the most trouble? Where can they make the worst decisions and screw up and have to get away? What are things that are teenagers going to do that they think are smart and adult that'll get them in trouble and learn a lesson? All that stuff's going to be there. But I think the way that they present it and the world that they present, there are some really harrowing things now, like the fascist World Government Alliance, and all of that. The fight against authoritarianism. Not going to say that stuff feels targeted for a release of a book that came out 10 years ago in 2025. Not saying they're putting that out there on purpose because those words were not in the solicitation in 2016. So whether or not they feel that's relevant today to today's
who's to say?
Environment, who's to say? Yeah, you know what? Yeah. We're not the creators, not the publishers. Not going to say. But
don't shoot the messengers. Don't shoot the commentators. That's
there might be some added meta context to a story like this now about what it's like to live in a society like that and what it pushes people to do and what they can find in themselves. So again, this idea that these familiar stories that you've read in so many iterations, this is another take on that. And I think it's got a real fun vibe. It's got a lot of heart to it. I think it works, I think, in this way that we have three main characters and they interact with a lot of people. You bring people on board, but we have three people that we care about. Uma, Duid,
which is like
and Katrin, which I know you
love about it because
you love a small cast. Yep,
I love small cast. Yeah. I like, especially when you're going to do 12 issues and you meet 9 characters, and like in my mind, every new character you meet is taking time away from the main characters, like the ones you are here for.
So we're following 3 kids and what their dynamic is and how they interact with the different aliens and species that we out in the world. There's a good vibe to this book. And again, added bonus for me is that a book like this, because I've come to love Marcus Toe's art so beautiful. It's so gorgeous. I love it so much. He is someone that, again, I follow and track. And it's one reason that once I got into this book, I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to keep reading this. It was almost like, regardless of what the story is, I just want to keep looking at this book. I love it so much. So that's an added bonus for me, that when you have beautiful visuals, that after you've read the story, you can just go back through and just look at characters, look at backgrounds, look at environments, look at the way they do facial acting and all that. It's so great. It's a fun book. It's definitely a lighter tone book, even though we just talked about fascism and authoritarianism and all that. In general, it's meant to be a lighter book, a lighter entry point into those ideas. But there's still a lot there. It's still a lot of fun. I do believe there's an issue that they go to a club plan. I want to say, it's been a while since I've reread the book and I haven't gotten there yet. I want to say it's issue 7 or 8. I think they just go to a club for an issue. Like they just go and like the whole planet's a rave. They just dance like that. that's where the setting is, and that's all that really happens. I think it is. I think I have. That's one of the ones I have signed by Kelly, Lansing, and Toe. That plus number 1 because it's such a fun issue. I forget which one it is. It's either 7 or 8. So we'll get there in a few weeks. But like something like that, you don't have to have these major stakes to still have like meaningful and effective themes come across and storytelling come across. So I'm looking forward to getting into this one and getting to reread it because it's been a few years for me since I've reread this. He said it wasn't even on my mind until I saw that solicitation for the complete collection. Otherwise, this wouldn't have popped back up unless I came across it randomly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've ordered the complete collection. I'm reading it digitally until my ordered copy shows up.
Sure.
But yeah, and I'm a slower reader digitally. I don't know why. I think it just takes me more time to look at the page, especially if like you flip to a page and you realize it's a double, and then you got to change the rotation of it.
You got to turn it and let it. Yeah, it can be slower. Yeah, which is why for me, digital. And this is off topic here, like above table stuff here, but like digital for me is when I reread stuff. I don't generally like to read stuff for the first time digitally unless I have no choice for that very reason. You know?
Yeah.
If I'm reading it for the first time, I like to have it in my hands, either in a physical trade or, for me, more often a single issue. And then when I reread something, going back to revisit it, then I like to have the digital because I can really savor. I can stop it if I want to zoom in on something and look at it and take my time because I already know what's happening in the story. But again, it's personal preference. However you find the book, however you can get it, if you can find a physical copy of the new release, maybe your library has. Your library could have the original 3 trades there. You could get those, or maybe they have the new collection, recently added to their availability as well. So however you find it, go find this book, go read it, and first 4 issues, 1 through 4, volume 1 is what we'll jump into next week.
See you then.
Yep. Peace.